Captain Veltar stared at the blue and green planet spinning below his ship with pure terror in his 4 eyes. The reports from his science team made no sense at all, and the readings from their instruments painted a picture of the most dangerous world he had ever seen in his 30 years of galactic exploration. This third planet from the yellow star showed massive storms that could destroy entire cities, earthquakes that split continents apart, and radiation levels that would kill most known life forms within hours. "Captain, the atmospheric readings are even worse than we thought," his science officer Zikanara said with her voice shaking. "The air contains 21% oxygen, which is highly toxic and reactive, plus there are trace amounts of methane and other deadly gases mixed throughout the atmosphere." Veltar nodded grimly as he studied the data streams flowing across his command screens. The planet's gravity was nearly twice what his people could handle safely, and the temperature swings were massive enough to freeze or boil most civilized species. The oceans covered most of the surface and reached depths that would crush their strongest vehicles like paper while containing enough salt to preserve dead bodies for centuries. "Sir, we are detecting radio transmissions from the surface," communications specialist Threnduk reported. "The signals suggest an advanced civilization, but the technology seems primitive compared to what should be required to survive on such a hostile world." The captain felt his stomach twist with worry as he considered the implications. Any species that could evolve and thrive on this nightmare planet must possess incredible survival abilities and probably advanced defensive technologies, beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever encountered. The fact that they were broadcasting radio signals meant they were not hiding from potential threats, which suggested they feared nothing in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison finished his morning run through the rain and checked his communication device for any urgent messages from Earth Defense Coalition headquarters. The weather was perfect for running, with just enough rainfall to keep him cool, and the thunder in the distance added a nice soundtrack to his workout routine. He grabbed a towel from his apartment and noticed several missed calls from his commanding officer, which usually meant something important was happening. "Jake, get down to headquarters immediately," General Martinez said when Jake called back. "We just received our first communication from an alien species, and they want to talk with someone from our military leadership." Jake felt his heart rate increase with excitement rather than fear as he quickly showered and dressed in his formal uniform. Humanity had been waiting for this moment since they first started listening for signals from space, and now it was finally happening. He drove through the busy morning traffic in Washington while wondering what these aliens might look like and whether they would be friendly or hostile. At headquarters, Dr. Lisa Crawford was already analyzing the alien transmission with her team of scientists and linguists. The message was surprisingly polite and seemed almost nervous in tone, which was not what anyone had expected from an advanced spacefaring civilization. The aliens identified themselves as representatives of something called the Galactic Council and requested permission to establish peaceful contact with the dominant species of this world. "The interesting thing is how they phrased their request," Dr. Crawford explained to Jake when he arrived. "They keep referring to us as apex survivors and mentioning our dangerous world as if they are afraid of our planet rather than impressed by our technology." Jake read through the translated message and found the alien concerns puzzling, since they seemed genuinely worried about Earth's environment rather than humanity's military capabilities. The message mentioned their amazement that any civilization could develop on a world with such extreme climate variations, geological instability, and hostile atmospheric conditions. They want to meet in orbital space because they consider our planet's surface too dangerous for direct contact. Dr. Crawford continued, "Their ship has been scanning our world for weeks, and they seem convinced that Earth is some kind of ultimate survival challenge that only the toughest species in the galaxy could handle." Jake laughed as he imagined these nervous aliens circling overhead while being terrified of his morning jog through a thunderstorm. Earth had always seemed like a pretty nice place to live, with interesting weather patterns, beautiful landscapes, and plenty of variety to keep life interesting. The idea that other species might view it as a hostile environment had never occurred to him. Tell them we accept their invitation to meet, Jake said after discussing the situation with his superiors. I will represent Earth at this first contact meeting, and we can figure out why they think our planet is so scary. Dr. Crawford transmitted the response while Jake prepared for humanity's first diplomatic mission to an alien spacecraft. He packed some basic supplies, reviewed what little they knew about alien psychology, and tried to imagine what kind of species would evolve on a world so safe and comfortable that they found Earth threatening. The aliens responded within hours and provided coordinates for a meeting point in high orbit where their ship would be waiting. Their message included detailed environmental requirements and safety protocols that seemed excessive for what should be a simple diplomatic meeting between civilized species. Jake suited up in a standard spacesuit and boarded a shuttle for the trip to orbit while wondering what surprises awaited him among the stars. Earth looked beautiful from space, as always, with its swirling clouds, blue oceans, and green continents, creating a peaceful and welcoming view that contradicted everything the aliens seemed to believe about his homeworld. The alien ship looked like a smooth silver egg floating in the darkness of space, with no visible weapons or threatening features that Jake could see from his shuttle's windows. When he docked with their vessel, the airlock systems worked perfectly, and he found himself in a corridor that felt more like a hospital than a starship, with soft lighting and gentle air circulation that seemed designed for maximum comfort and safety. Captain Veltar greeted Jake with what appeared to be a formal bow while wearing what looked like a full environmental suit, even though they were inside his own ship. The alien captain stood about 6 feet tall with 4 thin arms and a head that reminded Jake of a friendly dolphin crossed with a very nervous librarian. Welcome aboard the survey vessel Harmony, brave warrior of the Deathworld, Veltar said through a translation device that made his voice sound like a worried professor. We are honored to meet a representative of the most resilient species the galaxy has ever discovered. Jake removed his helmet and breathed the ship's air, which felt perfectly fine to him, though he noticed several alien crew members stepping backward when he did this. Thank you for the warm welcome, Captain. Though I should mention that Earth is actually quite a nice place to live once you get used to it. The alien medical officer immediately began scanning Jake with various devices while making alarmed clicking sounds that the translator converted into worried muttering about impossible biological readings and atmospheric adaptation beyond known scientific limits. Dr. Crawford had prepared Jake for this possibility, since the aliens clearly had very different ideas about what constituted a safe environment. Your Galactic Council's offer to evacuate humanity to safer worlds is very generous, Jake said as they walked through corridors lined with what appeared to be safety equipment and emergency medical stations. However, most humans are quite attached to Earth and would prefer to stay where we evolved and built our civilization. Captain Veltar stopped walking and stared at Jake with all 4 of his eyes wide open in apparent shock. You choose to remain on the surface of that catastrophic world voluntarily rather than accepting rescue to paradise planets with stable weather and safe atmospheric conditions. Jake nodded while trying to understand why these aliens found Earth so terrifying when billions of humans live there happily every day. We have cities built in every climate zone on the planet, and people actually enjoy the variety of weather patterns and geographical features that Earth provides for us. The alien captain's translator began making strange buzzing sounds as if it was having trouble processing Jake's words, while the medical officer continued taking readings and muttering about biological impossibilities. When Jake mentioned that humans regularly climb mountains for recreation, swim in oceans for fun, and explore underground caves as a hobby, 3 alien crew members had to sit down and receive medical attention. Perhaps you could explain your species' survival methods, Veltar said after his crew had recovered somewhat from their shock. The Galactic Council is very interested in learning how you have mastered such advanced defensive technologies and biological enhancements. Dr. Crawford had briefed Jake on this possibility, so he began explaining human biology and culture in simple terms while trying not to cause more alien medical emergencies. He described how humans evolved as persistence hunters who could run long distances in hot weather, how they learned to use tools and fire to survive ice ages, and how they developed agriculture to grow food in different environments. The aliens listened with growing horror as Jake explained that humans had no special technologies or genetic modifications, but simply adapted to Earth's conditions through evolution and learning. When he mentioned that human children play outside in rain and snow for entertainment, the ship's medical officer declared a mental health emergency and began treating several crew members for what appeared to be anxiety attacks. Your species consumes the flesh of other organisms and heated plant matter containing toxic alkaloids, the medical officer said while reviewing his scans of Jake's biological systems. The chemical compounds in your bloodstream should cause immediate organ failure but instead appear to provide energy and pleasure responses. Jake realized the alien was talking about coffee and hamburgers, so he tried to explain human dietary habits while the medical officer continued making alarmed notes about impossible toxin resistance. When Jake mentioned that humans also consume ethanol as a recreational beverage, the alien medical team had to adjourn for an emergency consultation about whether they were dealing with a species or a biological weapon system. Commander Lisa Grant arrived on the shuttle's second trip carrying a care package of Earth foods and beverages that Dr. Crawford had suggested might help with cultural exchange. The aliens watched in fascination and terror as she unpacked coffee, hot sauce, chocolate, and a bottle of wine while explaining that these were common human consumables rather than military supplies or survival rations. Your people ingest known toxins and corrosive substances for pleasure rather than necessity, Captain Veltar observed while his medical scanners confirmed that the coffee contained enough caffeine to kill several alien species. This suggests a level of biological enhancement and pain tolerance that exceeds our understanding of natural evolution. Lisa smiled as she prepared coffee for herself and Jake, while explaining that humans simply enjoyed flavors and experiences that other species might find intense. When she added hot sauce to her food and began eating it normally, the alien crew backed away from the table as if she was handling dangerous chemicals without proper safety equipment. The cultural exchange session continued with Jake showing pictures of human cities, sports events, and outdoor activities, while the aliens took detailed notes about what they assumed were advanced survival training programs and urban fortress systems. When Jake explained that humans built cities near volcanoes, earthquake zones, and hurricane paths because they liked the locations despite the natural hazards, the alien delegation requested a brief recess to recover from what their medical officer diagnosed as collective shock syndrome. By the end of the meeting, Captain Veltar and his crew were convinced that humans represented the most biologically advanced and psychologically resilient species in galactic history, while Jake was beginning to understand that most alien civilizations had evolved on much safer and more stable worlds than Earth. The cultural gap between species was larger than anyone had imagined, and bridging it would require patience and careful explanation from both sides. Jake Morrison decided the best way to help the aliens understand Earth was to show them the planet directly rather than trying to explain it through words and pictures that clearly were not working. Captain Veltar initially refused the invitation to visit the surface, with his voice shaking as he described it as a guaranteed death mission for his crew members, who were not equipped to handle such extreme environmental conditions. "I promise we will choose the safest possible location on Earth," Jake said while trying not to laugh at the idea that Central Park in New York City could be considered dangerous by any reasonable standard. "We can start with a short visit to one of our most peaceful urban areas where millions of humans live and work every day without any special protection or survival equipment." After 3 days of debate among his crew and several emergency consultations with medical experts on his homeworld, Captain Veltar agreed to send a small team to Earth's surface wearing full environmental suits rated for toxic waste disposal and radiation exposure. The alien medical officer prepared enough emergency supplies to treat what he calculated would be severe chemical burns, radiation poisoning, and atmospheric toxicity effects within the first hour of surface exposure. The landing shuttle touched down gently in Central Park on a beautiful spring morning with clear skies, moderate temperature, and a gentle breeze that Jake considered perfect weather for introducing nervous aliens to Earth's supposedly hostile environment. 3 aliens emerged from their heavily shielded, transport-wearing environmental suits that looked designed for exploring the surface of stars rather than visiting a public park in Manhattan. The radiation levels are within acceptable limits, reported alien scientist Kethme while checking her instruments nervously. However, the atmospheric pressure and chemical composition remain at dangerous levels for extended exposure, and the gravity is causing significant strain on our mobility systems. Jake watched people jogging past in shorts and t-shirts while the aliens measured radiation that posed no threat to anyone and worried about atmospheric pressure that New Yorkers breathed every day without thinking about it. Children played on metal playground equipment that had been sitting in direct sunlight while elderly humans sat on park benches, reading newspapers and feeding birds as if cosmic radiation was not slowly killing them. These humans appear to be engaging in recreational activity despite the extreme environmental hazards, Captain Veltar observed while watching a group of teenagers playing frisbee. Their lack of protective equipment suggests either advanced biological modification or sophisticated personal force field technology that our scanners cannot detect. Dr. Crawford arrived to serve as their tour guide and began explaining the various activities they could observe in the park while Jake translated alien concerns about human survival methods. When she pointed out that the people exercising were doing so voluntarily for health and entertainment rather than as required survival training, the alien medical officer began making notes about possible psychological adaptation syndromes. A sudden spring thunderstorm rolled in from the west with dark clouds, lightning, and heavy rain that sent most park visitors running for shelter under trees and building overhangs. The aliens immediately activated emergency protocols and demanded evacuation to their shuttle, while Jake and Dr. Crawford simply pulled out umbrellas and suggested they wait out the weather under a nearby pavilion. This is clearly a catastrophic weather event requiring immediate emergency response, Kethme said while her suit systems registered dangerous electromagnetic activity and atmospheric disturbance. How are the local humans remaining calm during this natural disaster? Jake explained that thunderstorms were normal weather events that happened regularly and were considered refreshing rather than dangerous by most people, while Dr. Crawford pointed out several humans who were actually walking through the rain on purpose because they enjoyed the experience. When the aliens saw people laughing and running through puddles instead of seeking emergency shelter, they began treating the observation as a study in advanced psychological conditioning techniques. The tour continued to the American Museum of Natural History, where Dr. Crawford had arranged a special presentation about Earth's natural history and human civilization. The aliens studied displays about dinosaurs, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and mass extinction events while trying to understand how any species could evolve on a planet with such a violent and unstable history. Your species studies these catastrophic events as academic subjects rather than survival preparation, Captain Veltar noted while examining a display about asteroid impacts and climate change. This suggests that humans have developed such advanced defensive capabilities that planetary-scale disasters are no longer considered serious threats. Dr. Crawford tried to explain that humans found these subjects interesting from a scientific perspective, and that studying the past helped them understand how life adapted to changing conditions over millions of years. When she mentioned that some humans actually searched for dinosaur fossils as a hobby, the aliens assumed this was advanced archaeological warfare training designed to locate enemy remains. The museum visit concluded with a trip to the planetarium where Jake hoped showing the aliens' familiar star patterns might help them feel more comfortable. Instead, the presentation about Earth's place in the solar system only reinforced their belief that humans had somehow chosen to live on the most dangerous planet in their local stellar neighborhood. A nearby restaurant provided the final shock of the day when Jake suggested they observe human feeding behavior in a natural social setting. The aliens watched through the windows as people consumed what their scanners identified as raw fish, fermented plant matter, aged dairy products, and beverages containing enough ethanol to serve as vehicle fuel. The humans are voluntarily ingesting biological toxins and corrosive substances while engaging in social bonding behaviors, the alien medical officer reported. Their digestive systems appear to process these dangerous compounds without any visible protective measures or technological assistance. Lieutenant Ben Parker joined them for dinner and made the situation worse by ordering the spiciest dish on the menu, while explaining that humans enjoyed food that provided intense sensory experiences. When he consumed what the aliens measured as a chemical weapon-grade concentration of capsaicin and then asked for extra hot sauce, the alien medical team declared the observation a complete violation of known biological safety principles. The aliens returned to their ship that evening convinced that they had witnessed the most advanced survival species in galactic history demonstrating casual immunity to environmental hazards that would destroy most known civilizations. Jake and Dr. Crawford realized that bridging the cultural gap between humans and aliens would require much more patience and creativity than anyone had originally expected. Word about humanity's impossible survival abilities spread through the Galactic Council faster than anyone expected, and Captain Veltar found himself fielding emergency communications from dozens of alien governments who wanted detailed reports about the species that lived on the galaxy's most dangerous planet. Emergency committees formed to study what xenopsychologists were calling terminal adaptation syndrome, and several star systems began requesting defensive consultations about potential human expansion. Dr. Crawford organized a series of cultural demonstration sessions designed to show aliens how normal human activities worked in practice, rather than theory, since her previous explanations had only made them more confused and frightened. She started with basic physical fitness by inviting the aliens to observe humans exercising at a local gym where people lifted heavy weights, ran on machines, and performed activities that looked like combat training. The humans are deliberately damaging their muscle tissue through repetitive stress application, alien biologist Zika Nara reported while watching people use exercise equipment. However, instead of seeking medical treatment, they appeared to enjoy the process and return regularly to inflict additional controlled injury on themselves. Jake Morrison tried to explain the concept of muscle development through exercise, while the aliens recorded everything as evidence of advanced biological regeneration technology. When Dr. Crawford mentioned that humans became stronger and healthier through regular physical challenges, the alien medical team assumed she was describing some kind of rapid cellular enhancement system that allowed real-time biological upgrades. The situation became more complicated when Jake introduced the alien delegation to human sports by showing them video footage of football, basketball, and auto racing. The aliens watched professional athletes competing at high speeds while making physical contact and performing moves that should result in serious injury according to their understanding of biological safety limits. These humans are engaging in ritualized combat scenarios using primitive protective equipment, Captain Veltar observed while watching a football game. The impacts they sustain would hospitalize most galactic species, but they continue fighting until the time limit expires, and then celebrate the experience. Sergeant Kelly Davis arrived to demonstrate basic military training exercises, which immediately convinced the aliens that they were observing the most advanced warrior culture in known space. When Kelly showed them standard obstacle courses, rappelling techniques, and weapons handling procedures, the alien military attached began taking detailed notes about human enhancement programs and combat conditioning methods. Your soldiers undergo extreme physical conditioning that would be considered torture in most civilized societies, the military attached noted while watching Marines complete a training course. Yet they volunteer for this treatment and compete with each other to achieve higher performance levels rather than seeking to avoid the challenges. Dr. Lisa Grant joined the demonstration to explain human space exploration efforts, which created an entirely new category of alien confusion when they learned that humans voluntarily traveled to the vacuum of space using what appeared to be primitive chemical rocket technology. The concept that people would risk their lives to explore airless rocks and gas Giant planets suggested either incredible bravery or complete insanity from the alien perspective. Your species has sent multiple missions to your planet's satellite, using vehicles that provide minimal protection from cosmic radiation and mechanical failure, the alien engineer Threnduk said while reviewing NASA mission footage. This indicates either desperate resource needs or a cultural requirement to demonstrate individual courage through extreme risk-taking behavior. Jake tried to explain that humans explored space because they were curious about the universe and wanted to expand their knowledge and capabilities, rather than because they were forced to leave Earth due to environmental pressures. The aliens found this explanation even more disturbing since it suggested that humans sought out danger voluntarily rather than as a survival necessity. The final demonstration involved Dr. Crawford explaining human research and education systems. By showing how people studied dangerous subjects like chemistry, physics, and biology without being required to do so by their government or military leaders. When the aliens learned that humans voluntarily exposed themselves to knowledge about nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, and space technology, they assumed this represented preparation for advanced warfare capabilities. Young humans spend decades studying subjects that would be classified as military secrets in most galactic civilizations, alien educator Vreshta observed while touring a university campus. They acquire knowledge about energy weapons, biological modification, and stellar engineering as part of standard educational programs rather than specialized warrior training. The aliens became even more concerned when they discovered that human students often completed these educational programs by choice rather than government assignment, and that many people continued learning new skills throughout their entire lives, just because they found the subjects interesting. This suggested a level of intellectual curiosity and knowledge acquisition that seemed designed to create a population capable of solving any problem or overcoming any challenge. Jake Morrison found himself in the strange position of trying to convince an interstellar civilization that humanity was not a threat to galactic security while simultaneously demonstrating that humans regularly did things that other species considered impossible or suicidal. The aliens interpreted every aspect of human culture through the lens of survival necessity rather than understanding that people often chose difficult paths because they found them rewarding or interesting. Dr. Crawford realized that the fundamental problem was that aliens had evolved on worlds so safe and stable that they could not imagine anyone choosing to face challenges voluntarily rather than being forced to do so by environmental pressures. Earth's dynamic environment had shaped humanity into a species that thrived on variety and change, while most alien civilizations valued safety and predictability above all other considerations. The cultural exchange sessions continued with both sides learning that the galaxy contained forms of life so different from each other that basic assumptions about survival, safety, and rational behavior could not be shared between species. What humans considered normal life was viewed as extreme survival training by aliens, while what aliens considered reasonable safety precautions seemed like excessive paranoia to human observers. Admiral Kethrin of the Galactic Council Defense Force reviewed Captain Veltares' reports with growing alarm while his military analysts tried to assess the threat level posed by a species that considered living on a death world to be normal recreational activity. If humans viewed their hostile planet as a comfortable home environment, their actual military capabilities must be beyond anything the galactic community had ever encountered or prepared to defend against. The Admiral's Strategic Planning Committee worked around the clock to understand human warfare potential while completely misinterpreting every piece of evidence they received about Earth's military organizations. When they learned that human soldiers trained by carrying heavy equipment across long distances in extreme weather conditions, they assumed this represented standard transportation methods rather than conditioning exercises designed to build strength and endurance. General Chris Martinez received increasingly nervous communications from alien governments requesting detailed information about human military technologies and defensive capabilities. The aliens wanted to establish mutual defense treaties and non-aggression pacts based on their assumption that Humanity possessed advanced weapons, systems, and biological enhancements that made them the most dangerous military force in known space. They keep asking about our enhanced soldier programs and advanced warfare innovations. General Martinez explained to Jake Morrison during a briefing about the deteriorating diplomatic situation. I try to tell them that our military personnel are just regular people who train hard and work together as teams, but they interpret everything as evidence of sophisticated biological modification technology. The aliens' terror increased dramatically when Dr. Crawford made the mistake of showing them historical footage from World War II as an example of how humans had learned to resolve conflicts through international cooperation and diplomacy. Instead of seeing the war as a historical tragedy that led to better international relations, the aliens focused on the scale of destruction and the fact that humans had fought each other with the same intensity they used to survive their planet's environmental challenges. The humans engaged in global warfare using primitive chemical explosive devices and mechanical vehicles, Admiral Kethrin reported to the Galactic Council's emergency session. The casualty figures and destruction levels indicate a species with unlimited aggression potential and no apparent concern for preservation of infrastructure or population centers. Captain Veltar tried to explain that the war had ended 70 years ago and that humans had since developed international laws and organizations designed to prevent similar conflicts, but his testimony only made the situation worse when he mentioned that Earth's nations maintain military forces equipped with weapons capable of destroying entire continents within hours. The panic reached new levels when Colonel Sarah Williams attempted to reassure alien diplomats by explaining human concepts of deterrence theory and mutual assured destruction as methods for maintaining peace between nations. The aliens interpreted nuclear weapons as standard defensive equipment rather than understanding them as desperate last resort measures that no one ever wanted to use. The humans have developed stellar-scale destruction capabilities as routine military equipment, alien military analyst Kethro reported. They possess sufficient firepower to sterilize multiple planets but continue to live peacefully on their Deathworld as if such weapons represent normal technological development rather than ultimate doomsday devices. Several minor galactic powers began abandoning star systems near Earth's location based on their assumption that human expansion was inevitable and that any species capable of surviving such a hostile homeworld must have aggressive territorial instincts. The aliens could not imagine that humans might prefer exploration and trade over conquest since their own civilizations had developed on safe worlds where competition for resources was minimal. Jake Morrison found himself accidentally intimidating alien governments simply by existing as a representative of a species that other civilizations viewed as impossibly dangerous. When he mentioned during diplomatic meetings that humans enjoyed challenges and were always looking for new frontiers to explore, several alien delegations interpreted this as thinly veiled threats of territorial expansion rather than expressions of scientific curiosity. The situation reached crisis levels when Commander Lisa Grant tried to demonstrate human peacekeeping capabilities by showing aliens footage of international rescue operations, disaster relief efforts, and scientific cooperation programs. Instead of recognizing these as examples of human compassion and cooperation, the aliens assumed they were watching advanced psychological warfare techniques designed to demonstrate superior logistical capabilities. The humans deploy military-scale resources to assist other populations during natural disasters, observed alien sociologist Nex Hari. This suggests either incredibly advanced resource management systems or a sophisticated strategy for establishing client relationships with weaker species through demonstrations of overwhelming technological superiority. Earth's accidental rise to galactic superpower status created problems that no one had anticipated when first contact protocols were originally developed. Human diplomats found themselves trying to convince other species that humanity was not planning to conquer the galaxy while simultaneously being unable to deny that humans possessed capabilities that alien civilizations considered impossible or terrifying. Dr. Crawford organized emergency cultural education sessions designed to help aliens understand that human behavior was motivated by curiosity and cooperation rather than aggression and conquest. However, her explanations about human exploration of dangerous environments for scientific knowledge only reinforced alien beliefs that humans were conducting reconnaissance missions for future military operations. The Galactic Council's Emergency Defense Committee began developing contingency plans for potential human expansion while completely failing to understand that Earth's inhabitants were more interested in making friends than conquering enemies. The cultural gap between species had grown so large that basic communication about intentions and motivations became nearly impossible. Despite sophisticated translation technology, Admiral Catherine decided that the only way to properly assess the human threat was to visit Earth personally and observe their civilization directly rather than relying on reports that might be missing crucial context. His decision to conduct a personal reconnaissance mission set the stage for either the resolution of galactic tensions or the escalation of fears that could lead to an interstellar conflict based entirely on misunderstanding and cultural differences between species that had evolved under completely different environmental conditions. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Catherine arrived at Earth with a delegation of galactic leaders who had come to personally assess the threat level posed by humanity and hopefully find a way to coexist with the most feared species in known space. The Admiral's flagship maintained a safe distance from Earth's atmosphere while he prepared for what his military advisors considered the most dangerous diplomatic mission in galactic history. Dr. Crawford had spent weeks preparing for this crucial meeting by developing a comprehensive cultural immersion program designed to help aliens understand human society through direct observation rather than reports that had been consistently misinterpreted by galactic analysts. She chose Colorado as the demonstration site because its mountain environment provided what she considered a perfect example of humans thriving in conditions that aliens would find challenging. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral," Jake Morrison said as the alien delegation emerged from their heavily shielded transport wearing environmental suits that looked designed for exploring the interior of active volcanoes. "We appreciate your willingness to visit our world directly and hope this experience will help clear up some of the misunderstandings that have developed between our species." The Admiral looked around at the Rocky Mountain landscape with its snow-capped peaks, alpine forests, and clear blue skies while his instruments registered what he considered dangerously thin atmosphere, extreme temperature variations, and radiation levels that should require emergency medical treatment. When he noticed humans hiking on mountain trails wearing minimal clothing and carrying heavy packs for recreation, he began to understand that his species had fundamentally misunderstood human motivation and capabilities. Dr. Emily Foster, a psychologist specializing in stress adaptation and resilience training, joined the demonstration to explain how Earth's challenging environment had shaped human psychology in positive ways rather than creating a population of traumatized survivors. She described how humans had learned to view difficulties as opportunities for growth, and how they developed strong social bonds through shared challenges and cooperative problem-solving. "Your species has developed what we call post-traumatic growth on a planetary scale," Dr. Foster explained while the aliens watched children building snowmen and adults skiing down mountain slopes. Instead of being damaged by environmental stress, humans have learned to become stronger and more adaptable through experience with manageable challenges. Admiral Catherine began to realize that his military analysts had been interpreting human behavior through their own cultural framework rather than understanding it from a human perspective. When Jake Morrison invited him to observe a local barbecue where families were cooking food outdoors in sub-freezing temperatures while children played in the snow, the Admiral finally grasped that humans genuinely enjoyed their planet's variety rather than merely enduring it. "These humans are not surviving your world despite its challenges," the Admiral observed while watching people laugh and socialize around an outdoor fire. "They are thriving because of the challenges and have developed a cultural appreciation for environmental diversity that most species would find incomprehensible." Dr. Crawford seized on this breakthrough to explain how Earth's dynamic environment had taught humanity cooperation, innovation, and resilience rather than creating a warrior culture focused on conquest and aggression. She showed the admirable examples of human art, music, and literature that celebrated the beauty and complexity of their world while demonstrating how creative expression helped people process and appreciate their experiences. The cultural immersion program continued with visits to schools, hospitals, and research facilities where the aliens could observe how humans approached education, medicine, and scientific discovery as collaborative enterprises rather than competitive struggles for survival. When they saw children learning about other cultures and working together on group projects, the alien delegation began to understand that human society was built around cooperation and curiosity rather than dominance and fear. Jake Morrison arranged for the Admiral to meet with representatives from Earth's various international organizations, including the United Nations, World Health Organization, and International Space Station Program. These meetings demonstrated how humans had learned to work together across cultural and political boundaries to solve shared problems and explore new frontiers. Your species has developed institutional frameworks for cooperation that span your entire planet, Admiral Catherine noted after reviewing human international relations. This suggests a level of social evolution that focuses on mutual benefit, rather than zero-sum competition for limited resources. The breakthrough came when Dr. Foster explained that humans did not see Earth as a death world but as a dynamic, beautiful home that had shaped them into adaptable problem solvers who could help other species overcome environmental challenges. She proposed that humanity could serve as advisors and consultants for galactic civilizations that wanted to expand their capabilities and develop greater resilience. The Admiral's personal experience with Earth's environment provided the final piece of understanding when he realized that humans were not surviving impossible conditions, but living normal lives on a world that seemed dangerous only from the perspective of species that had evolved under much safer circumstances. The cultural gap between humans and aliens was real, but bridgeable through patient explanation and direct experience. Jake Morrison's final report to Earth Defense Coalition headquarters noted the irony that humanity had gained galactic respect, not through superior technology or military might but by simply being themselves in the environment where they had evolved. Dr. Crawford added that the galaxy was slowly learning what humans had always known about the relationship between challenges and growth. The establishment of the Terran Resilience Institute marked the beginning of a new phase in galactic relations, where Earth became known as a training center for species looking to expand their comfort zones and develop better adaptation strategies. Humans found themselves serving as consultants and advisors for civilizations that wanted to explore more challenging environments or develop greater flexibility in dealing with change. Admiral Catherine returned to the Galactic Council with recommendations for establishing formal diplomatic relations with humanity, based on mutual respect and cooperation rather than fear and defensive preparations. His report emphasized that humans represented an opportunity for the galaxy to learn new approaches to problem-solving rather than a threat that required military containment. The story concluded with Earth's admission to the Galactic Council as a special advisory member whose unique perspective and experience with environmental challenges made them valuable partners for other species. Humans discovered that their greatest strength was not their ability to survive on a dangerous world, but their willingness to help others overcome difficulties and grow stronger through shared experiences and cooperative solutions.